They say opposites attract. That's why the Sleep Number Smart Bed is the best bed for couples. You want a bed that feels firm, but they want soft? Sleep Number does that. You want to sleep cooler while they like to feel warm? Sleep Number does that too. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number number 1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, Sleep Number Smart Beds start at $999. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Hello and welcome to this. It is the EggChasers Rugby Podcast, the podcast about rugby doesn't take itself or indeed the game too seriously. I'm JB here in the Rugby Dungeon with Phil. Hello, Phil.
Hello, JB.
How are you, mate?
I'm okay. You're looking magnificent in that vest.
It's a great vest, isn't it? It's probably my favourite of all my vests.
Classic crest as well.
It is. Tim, what vest? Oh, sorry. Hello, Tim.
Hello, JB. Do you still have your Sam Burgess vest?
No, it was lost a long time ago. A long time ago.
Surely that would have still been your favourite.
No, this is my favourite one. Guess which one it is.
Well, I can see it.
Oh, can you? I thought you were joined with camera. Oh God, how terrifying!
No, my camera.
the things that we were doing before you logged on.
No, my camera's not on, just to save a bit of bandwidth. But I can see you.
And doesn't he look good?
The Royal Marines top, of course.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So anyway, we didn't talk last week, Tim.
I'm so sorry.
Well, why don't you give us? I mean, there's a lot going on, and we've only got a limited time to do it. But we want to. Yeah, we want to hear what you've been up to.
Well, briefly. So, you can keep an eye on what I've been up to if you go to EggChasers Rugby on YouTube.
Yep.
Lots of interesting videos there.
And to be fair, that's the only way that we've known that you've been alive. Eagerly awaiting those updates, Tim.
You might be able to tell from my voice, I've hammered it this weekend, and I am so ready to come home now.
It's always good.
I'm going to flog my body when I get back.
I tell you what, a lot of people, including me, looking at the emails of the free stuff that you've been getting, would say you've been on a jolly. But I'll hand it to you. You put out a lot of content. You put in one hell of a shift.
Yeah, and I'm getting close to 100,000 subscribers as well. So,
yes, well done.
But more importantly, genuinely, I've never. You guys have been to South Africa before. I haven't. It is such an awesome country.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And it really is amazing.
With some incredibly sad politics.
That is very true.
Although seem to be a little bit more hopeful at the minute with this government and national unity and all that, but we don't need to get into that. Anyway, what I would say is I feel like I've got under the skin of of the rugby in South Africa at all levels, and I've seen, while I've been here, a couple of amazing test matches, which obviously we're going to talk about.
Yes, well, quite. Now, we're in a rush, aren't we, because England football are playing soon.
We've got an hour and a half.
Got an hour and a half.
Which is plenty of time.
A short pod for by our standards.
Well,
yes.
we're kind of generally talking about 4 games, maybe a couple of badges, maybe touch on the under-20s.
We could easily stretch that into 3 hours.
3.5 hours on a bad day. So anyway, before we talk rugby, is anyone inspired by England tonight?
I wouldn't say inspired. I'm looking forward to it. I'm quite excited, but I kind of feel like we've been here before a few years ago, and that was the England-Italy game with Luke Shaw scoring early on.
Yes, it was.
And it went downhill from there.
Yeah.
How about you, JB? Because you're not strictly English, but you kind of like social occasions. And...
Yeah. Do you like cultural Christian? I'm culturally English, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm really inspired by them. I've never wanted to trash a pub more or indeed sing aggressively at policemen. So, yeah, I'm really getting into the spirit of things.
Now, Tim, where will you be?
Care less, really.
Well,
really? Oh, I mean, on a serious note, I do really care. I mean, I think it's amazing to see what they've done and how they've done it. And I think one of the most interesting things for me is how retrospective sport is. So, in the group games, everyone was saying that Gareth Southgate was a bit of an idiot for his substitutions, and now he's a genius.
Yeah.
And there's just no real answer, is there? Just win, and everything is fine.
It is entirely. This is a point I was making a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you were. About the Bulls.
Exactly, yeah, about the Bulls.
Yeah.
And it's so true in sport, and everyone is a revisionist historian, entirely dependent on whether you win or lose.
Yeah.
Win or lose, if they win this final, all of those poor performances were building up. They didn't want to peak too soon. They were building up to the right time. They were experimenting, trying different things. If they lose this, last time was just a fluke. It was rubbish the whole of the tournament. And it'll be millimeters or milliseconds.
You're so correct on that. It's like there's so many things that people retrospectively bolt onto sport. The one you just pointed out then is, will they peak too soon?
Yeah.
You know,
Massively. You don't want to peak too soon.
No. Well, I'll tell you one we can put to bed this week from rugby, which is momentum.
Yeah.
So in the Ireland-South Africa game, you would say, for all your worth, if you were putting bets on, the momentum was in South Africa's favour.
Towards the end of the game, so more momentum with Ireland in the first half. Second half, going into those last 10 minutes or so, all the momentum is with South Africa. The momentum on the pitch, the momentum on the scoreboard, the momentum of the penalties, and Ireland somehow stopped it, and then we had that miraculous finish.
Yeah, and I think the thing to enjoy about sport is there is no set in stone rules, because as soon as you set a rule, as soon as you've got one set, it's everyone's job to figure it out
and to break it. Yeah. To disprove. Oh, that's why we love sport, I guess.
Indeed.
I will watch the game this evening, but I will watch it in my hotel room. I went out early today and I had a cote de boeuf. With a lovely bone marrow thing. I had a bit of a memory meal as my last big meal in South Africa, and they got the blowtorch out for the bone marrow.
Awesome!
It out. It was an amazing prime rib, and then I went to the supermarket, got some stuff in, so I just don't have to leave this room till I go. So I'll watch it on the telly, but we'll see.
So are you still in Durban?
Yeah, a little place called Umhlanga, which is basically
I've been there.
where...
It's awesome. In fact, you've been there, haven't you?
Cool,
Phil?
isn't it?
Yeah.
I met you there.
We met near there.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah, that whole stretch of coast up there. I'll be honest, I was having lunch the other day, Umdioti, I think it's called, just a little bit further north than Umhlanga, and I was looking around thinking, oh, this is just like it was 28, 30 degrees in middle of winter.
Midwinter.
For them. I know, and I started looking at houses.
Do you know, on a serious note, Tim, I mean, you are a rugby YouTuber. I mean, it doesn't take over your actual job. Why don't you do it? You could do it.
Could do it. Well, when you look at the pound and the rand, I could do it.
Do you know there's a very common trap for people doing this?
Yeah.
So the common trap is you look at what you can buy, you go over there, and it never stops depreciating. So if you ever want to move to South Africa, be very careful, because moving back, it's pretty much a one-way ticket. Once you're there,
I would always keep. I wouldn't sell in the UK. But anyway,
what you want is
I'm very taken with.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say KwaZulu-Natal. Everyone in the UK thinks of Cape Town and Kruger, but as you guys know, you've been here. KwaZulu-Natal is an absolute gem.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's awesome. We did a bit of time in Durban. Watched the Jaguares, the now defunct Argentine Super Rugby team, against the Sharks. We spent a few days north of there doing some safari, and we also spent a couple of days very far west of there, but drivable from Durban in the Drakensberg Mountains. And
I want to go there, mate. I want to go there.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. And I went up to Imphalosi. I'm expecting that's the place you went to the north for the safari.
Yeah,
like Wakanda, green hills everywhere. It's amazing. Anyway,
so
let's talk about rugby.
Yeah, let's do that. So
watch my videos, EggChasers Rugby, if you want to see all that jazz.
Yes.
So I managed to watch all of the games in their entirety, except for France.
So I have watched France-Argentina in its entirety live as it happened. The only game I only saw bits of was Wales-Australia. Saw everything else live.
I've kind of caught up with Wales-Australia mostly, for the most part, since, but I didn't watch it live.
And I will just say, I don't think any of us have watched Samoa-Spain or Japan-Georgia, which looked very interesting, or Scotland-USA.
Correct.
Yes. So sorry to those teams. I guess be better.
Yeah, absolutely right. Just be much better. Be tier 1 teams. Why can't you just be tier 1 teams like everyone else?
I will say fair play to Georgia, though, in Japan, beating Japan, which is a great result for Georgia.
It is good. I had no idea it happened, but it is good. I agree. So let's go chronologically, and let's go with probably the one which our audience likes the most, which would be England. What did we make of this?
Very good test match. I really enjoyed this, even though England came close but no cigar. I thought it was a great test match. I thought it was fascinating to see the set-piece battle.
Yeah.
Where Ethan de Groot had some criticism in the week for his technique, giving him an advantage that it wasn't picked up. If it was mentioned to the referee, it wasn't picked up at all, and I wouldn't know what I'm looking at, so I'm completely impartial on that in that regard. But he won multiple scrum penalties, and even when they didn't win penalties, England looked weak in the scrum. Yeah,
Will Stewart is so far off the mark. So, just on the Ethan de Groot thing, with the, what do they call it, aggressive manoeuvring or something?
Yeah.
Like a real tight prop would just leave him behind. So, he's not running around the side, but he's sort of leveraging around the side. Will Stewart needs to know what he's doing. Like, he just needs to just leave him be.
What was that phrase that Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin used?
Conscious uncoupling.
Will Stewart consciously uncouples from scrums.
Yeah, that's exactly what you should do. Just leave him behind. In fact, weirdly enough, we had Avion Lewis Roberts come down to teach us how to scrimmage in Broughton Park once.
Awesome.
And that's exactly what you're saying. Like, so we were talking to him about changing our positions and boring in on the side. He goes, well, then you're in danger of shearing off. And that's what Will... I mean, this is the scrum battle. This is why I think over-officiating in the scrum does not help necessarily. Technicalities in the scrum help. And if you want to come around the side, well, you have to, work out the fact that they're just going to go forward without you. So, there's lots of ways to look at this. I actually think that it's shown that the All Blacks in the scrum looking pretty good.
Yes, they are.
In the line-out, horrendous. Legitimately horrendous.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
Really not good. Marrow was awesome.
He was awesome.
In both tests, he was awesome around the park, and he was awesome in the line-out. But he put massive pressure on that New Zealand line-out.
Now, there is another way to look at this All Black conundrum, which I have up front. And I say conundrum. I'm going to look at this through the lens of Sam James. Okay?
The King of Wilmslow.
The King of Wilmslow, right? So when Sam James used to play for Sale, and they were going great guns. They're still going great guns now, but the Diamond. I always thought the biggest problem is between Janzi van Rensburg and Sam James. You've got two unique talents which you can't really replace. So if you're reliant, and Wasps were the same. So with Wasps, they had all these talented players, and if one of them wasn't there, you can't just put another guy into the system. You can't just find another Curtly Beale.
Or Sir Charles Piatow.
Yeah, exactly right. And this is kind of how I felt.
Or Billy LaRue.
Exactly.
Wasps managed to find a new one every year.
Well, yes, but if they're injured in the season, I mean. So off your bench or some such thing. I do worry that these two props are legitimately world class. But if you don't have two props backing them up, what do you do?
Well, the guys they brought off the bench also look good. So
I think Fletcher Newell is probably their best scrummager.
Yeah, he's strong, isn't he?
And Tunga Fassi.
And you've got Tomaiti Williams and that new guy, Tosi, that weren't even in the matchday squad.
So they might be all right.
That would probably both start for England.
Because Ethan de Groot in the World Cup, and even before the World Cup last year, when they played South Africa at Twickenham, he had a few tough old matches against that South African scrum. Yeah. I mean, he's not alone in that regard, but he's still learning his trade a little bit.
Yeah, I guess my point is you don't need two good props. You need at least six.
Yeah.
And I really, look at South Africa. That's what you need.
And look at England, where you've just spoken about Will Stewart. 37-year-old Dan Cole is the current number 2. and he is the second best prop in England. But where would those two be on the South African pecking order?
It's just not good enough, is it? I'm sure England have got the props somewhere, but they're just not given a chance, in my opinion.
I'm not so sure they do.
Well, have all those playing.
They must have the bodies.
Yeah, they must.
But I wonder if this is a selection thing, that maybe the English game has gone a bit too far to select for more kind of ball playing athletic props rather than just the pure heavy, simply the biggest bodies you can possibly find.
And also think about what we're telling kids, right? Outside of the private schools, what we're telling kids about rugby: play multiple positions. In some cases, it's play different sports and come back when you're 19, right? You need to be looking at scrimmaging and propping from day dot, and you don't need this nonsense that it's an evasion sport with contact. No.
Well,
it's a collision sport with more collision.
There is another angle here, because those two young New Zealand props I mentioned, who are currently kind of their third choice, loose head and tight head respectively, both number 8s converted to front row.
I think there's something in the just get the biggest bodies, as in English rugby.
Jump in a time machine and get Carl Ferns and Billy Vunipola to be
Damn
props.
right.
That
absolutely right.
Well, they would still today, had they have played prop from being 10 years old, they would still be dominant.
Yeah.
Now, because I refuse to think it's a big bodies thing. Like, for example, we were at North Dorset Sevens last weekend.
There's loads of big guys.
There was some enormous.
There was one man. I mean,
there was a couple on the North Dorset. I can't remember the name of their team. They had a 100 kg plus team.
Yeah.
And
100 kg.
A couple of the boys were well over 140 kg.
Yeah. Like some of them look like wildlings. Not wildlings. What the ones? What was it? Who are the massive ones that live in the snow? Are they wildlings?
I don't know where the wildlings are.
Yeah, I can't remember.
In Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
God, what are they called?
Anyway, these are big cow stacking farmers which have got over in North Dorset.
Well, I was going to say, the UK, we definitely will have our stock of big men, but I was at an old boys game on Friday night of two of the old South African rugby schools, and my God, the size of some of those boys.
Yes.
Absolute units.
Do you know what you should do next, Tim? I think you should go to some of the big private school games in the UK, and just for your curiosity to see what you think the size differential is.
Well, yeah, and just the comparison of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now I've kind of, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, because...
But there are, it is interesting.
Well, just as a comparison, because obviously you spoke about Craven Week a couple of weeks ago. It's currently the under 20s World Cup at the moment, and South Africa have fared badly, very badly. They finished in the pool stages. They finished 8 out of 12, and they've just lost in the kind of 5th place semi-final to Argentina, who have already beaten them once. So they won.
Yeah, they're not happy about that here. There's talk of, I mean, I probably can't say. I probably wouldn't choose to kind of. No, probably wouldn't. I'd probably choose not to go down the route of what the general opinion on the under 20 seems to be in South Africa, but politics is heavily at play.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, less said about that, the better. But for them to win one of 4 games, is
dreadful,
unacceptable. Yeah, and to finish wherever they finish 8th or 9th out of the teams and not trouble. Kind of the top 4 were New Zealand, France, England, and Ireland. Not that surprising.
You won the semi-final just earlier. I fell asleep while it was on.
England beat Ireland in one semi-final, and the other, the repeat of the France-New Zealand game, because they've already played that once because of the seeding, which finished France 26, New Zealand 27, is happening
again.
No, so that was so that was the first. That was the first match.
Yeah, I saw that one. I was going to say not again, but yeah, cool.
Maybe hang on, is this under 20s?
Under 20s.
Well, maybe they're not giving him the Charlie Yule's diet till under 21s in South Africa.
Maybe it's too much Charlie Yule's diet.
Maybe it is that, isn't it?
Who was it? Victor Conte on Rogan years and years ago, talking about juicing in America and the Soviet Union in the 70s, 80s. he's like, "Oh,
Charlie Yule's diet."
He's like,
His nose is growing.
He's like, no, you don't want to run on gear. You want a tapering period after. Like, if you're actually on it, your muscles are just too tight to run. You can't actually perform in that.
No, true.
Something is too much right now. They need the tapering period.
Yeah. So, back to this
we've
game.
covered off scrums in England, New Zealand pretty comprehensively.
Yeah, pretty well. But on that, I'm going to sort of take us on a different path for later. But do you think we're in the era of the declining captain, like the caretaker captain?
Think of the captains.
Jamie George
this week.
He's not going to be a World Cup captain in any way, shape, or form.
I don't know. I really like Jamie George. I'm
like him as a bloke. He's a decent bloke. He's an okay player.
I think he's a very good player.
Yeah, okay, he's very good.
Whether he will still be the best in 3 years' time is another matter, given he's, 33, 34?
So here's one thing that kind of lends a bit of credence to what you're saying. I think Caelan Doris is Ireland's captain for the next...
Exactly right.
I totally
agree
6,
with that.
7 years. But what in the positions which are most often captains taken from, front five, predominantly, they tend to only play 50 minutes a game maximum, which is that's an interesting development.
It is. Well, I think Wales will be the only team really who have got their captains for the next World Cup. I think Derry Lake and Jack Morgan are legit captains for a long time. And if not, you can see where it might go with
David
Jenkins.
Yeah.
So you can see a core of a young team there. Now, that's through necessity as much as anything. Ireland's captain's not going to hang around. I don't think the England captain will be.
No, they'll make that. Caelan Doris will be the Ireland captain from now.
Yeah.
I think that probably always was the case.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
But it was prior to that. I mean, Scott Barrett. Do you think Scott Barrett's good enough to be the All Blacks captain? I don't.
I think he is.
I think he's a very good player. I just don't think he's All Black captaincy material. He's not mercurial like some of the past captains, and neither was the last captain.
Can you imagine him lifting a World Cup? That's a question. Just
no.
Picture in your head. Can you imagine that person lifting a World Cup?
Oh, I can. I watched the post-match game with Scott Barrett. Post-match interview with Scott Barrett. Now, he didn't say anything particularly inspiring or interesting, but he sat there next to Razor. Just the size of the boy, the jaw on him.
Big boy.
Yeah, I think he can be. I think he can be.
I can imagine Audie Surveyor lifting a World Cup.
Could see that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine both the Barrett brothers lifting a World Cup.
Bowden will be an interesting one.
I can imagine Ardi Savia lifting the World Cup as he does a selfie at the same time.
Although Audie's 30, so he'll be 34.
30,
and
33.
Someone that explosive.
I think he'll be okay. 33.
He's so violent, isn't he?
It's Bodie Barrett, who's 33 now, so 36 as an outside back.
Yeah.
That's tough, although he was amazing. He was probably the difference maker in that second half.
Completely agree.
He was, and he's got all the plaudits for it, rightly so. Part of that is him being genuinely amazing. Part of it is down to some kind of brain-dead kicking from England, from England's backs, where they went 2 or 3 phases, didn't make any yards, and then just panicked. And like Ollie Lawrence did it, Henry Slade did it.
I think
Freddie Stewart did it.
They did it last week as well. The little grubbers in New Zealand's 22, they did it last week, and then they did a bunch more yesterday. Those were really frustrating.
Really concerning the England attack. Outside of absolutely spectacular crossfield kicks,
and they got some momentum with strike plays. Probably more in the Six Nations, but it's the phase attack that is what's missing. And when you watch 3 teams in particular. Not South Africa, but the other 3 best teams in the world, Ireland, France and New Zealand, their ability to run like cohesive phase plays multiple times, even when they get static ball, the ability to then turn it into front football that then turns into proper attacking.
Almost like a launch play within open play.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's like just like go forward. Now, I do wonder a little bit if England's plan was to deliberately narrow up the pitch for those cross kicks. I mean, it seems elaborate to me, but actually, the first 2 happened at fairly early doors. The Fair Bosa one, followed by the what's his name, Tommy Freeman one. So they might be trying to do that.
But then once
I
you've
think
done
they
it,
probably were, because it happened a long time. They went hard up the middle with a couple, one or two ball carries all the way to one side, and then the kick all the way to the other.
Yeah.
which is fine, and those two worked beautifully. Those two tries were spectacular. It's the fact that if you only do that, if you're only seeking to do that, then you get found out. Therefore, you must have more. And it's the more that, like, I'm really happy with those two crossfield kicks. I want to see the more, the other stuff.
So, one of our coach at Talk Age at the moment has a great saying, and I love it. Don't get bored of being good. Which means if it was working, carry on bloody doing it until it stops working. Now, in a way, I don't see this ever not working unless the opposition, like New Zealand this weekend, get as narrow as you do, learn to bang, and I tell you what, if there's one thing this New Zealand team is good at, it's hitting hard. I mean, I thought they were that's probably the best part of their game, is hitting hard in defence, because I don't think it's a breakdown. I don't think it's a set piece. And if they can do that and also defend the wide channels, then you've got a problem. But actually, if you can narrow a team, just carry on making them narrow until you've got Marcus Smith, who can kick superbly, and just carry on peppering them with points. I mean, it works for South Africa. South Africa do that an
Do you
awful
know what else
lot.
was really good with New Zealand is their discipline. So one penalty in the first half, and in the second half they started to give a few away, but they did them almost like proactive penalties, like, oh, we're really under pressure, England have got quick ball, kill it. It's
England do that to
very
Mark
intelligent
Talea?
pens.
Did an England player do that to Mark Talea when he's about to score? I seem to think they did. Or have I just made that up?
I'm not sure.
Not sure.
No, I'm not sure either.
But the penalties, to that point, Tim, New Zealand conceded 6, England conceded 11. And so
that's a damn good penalty count.
Yeah, a 6 is a very, very good penalty count. If you concede nearly twice as many and your scrum is struggling, it's going to be a hard day at the office.
Yeah.
And with that said, England did some really good other stuff. Like their defence overall was very, very good. To only concede those 2 tries from Mark Talea. Their line-out was very good in both attack and defence, disrupting. Some of their heavy traffic carrying was excellent, like Ben Earl again.
Although less effective than I'd like him to be.
He still made 80 metres with ball in hand.
That's actually pretty good.
It's very good.
I tell you the one that
I know what you mean, though, JB. It seemed like there were quite a few collisions that he didn't win, but he kept getting up and going again.
Well, the one I was very interested in was Chandler Cunningham South, because I know how good he is when he's getting his own way, and he did not get his own way.
The first hit, the first carry when he ran into Cody Taylor and the scrum half.
Finley Christie?
Yes,
Finley Christie,
and he got absolutely smashed.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting day in the office for him.
Because he had a great game last week, and he'd be expecting more of the same. He's the biggest boy in that back row.
Yeah,
he's considerably bigger than both.
He's aggressive.
Yeah.
But I just wonder, because I've never seen him under pressure. I've never seen him go backwards. I've seen him in huge games go forwards, which is very different.
Yeah.
But what happens if he's getting smashed? Now, he wasn't. I wouldn't say he wasn't himself, but he certainly wasn't as effective as he was, say, against Bordeaux when he ran the show, or some earlier England performances.
Yeah, he wasn't as effective as he was last week, but he still does a lot around the park as well.
Oh, I'm still absolutely nailed onto him. I still think he's very good.
And when you've got Earl and Underhill, or Earl and Curry, or Underhill, whatever the other combination of the back row made up of those 3 players. He gives you another line-out option as well.
Yeah, and I think Itoji's found his long-term partner for the next World Cup. I think Martin has to be the boy.
Martin's
so
amazing,
hard.
Isn't he?
He's so good. Fitness is maybe one concern with him, as in not fitness in the 80 minutes, because he works damn hard. Fitness, he's got the Sam Underhill problem. He just hits too hard.
He does hit
to be doing it every week.
The Sam Underhill problem is he hits as hard as George Martin, but he's the size of Sam Underhill. With George Martin also being the size of George Martin, I think he's there's not many collisions that Sam Underhill goes into with the weight advantage.
Yeah. Not in the forwards, certainly.
And Martin can go into a fair few tackles with the weight advantage, and I think that's just a huge difference.
Yeah. Love him though. Love that partnership.
Yeah, I actually think that New Zealand and England are basically very similar teams at this point, which is they're very competitive at the very height of the game. They're not a world-beating team. Neither of them are a world-class team, but they can mix it with the world-class teams on occasion. And I think that's broadly where they are.
And they both have world-class players.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a handful of them. But all in all, if these two test matches were played in England, I'd expect England to win both of them.
Well, we get the third test in November in England at Twickenham.
I guarantee England win with the right guys.
Guarantee.
Yeah.
Caveat.
And one last one. Freddie Stewart. Oh dear. Right, this is exactly what I saw from Freddie Stewart this week. Is exactly the Freddie Stewart that lives in my mind prior to this game. You've heard me talk about him numerous times. He gets in the air nicely. He catches balls on occasion, but he knocks on far too many, even high balls.
My two big concerns, because I don't think there's many high balls, maybe one or two, but my two big concerns are the two concerns with him, because I think he's very good in the air, but my two problems are, one, he is just too damn slow. And so 2 minutes into the game where he fields a ball deep in his 22, he goes to show and go, gives like a half dummy.
Slips over.
And then
inevitably.
If it was, I don't know, Damien McKenzie or Bowden Barrett or Marcus Smith or Hugo Keenan or Thomas Ramos, or basically you name a bunch of high caliber 15s, or George Furbank, they would show and they would step the player and they'd accelerate to buy themselves some time, and then they do whatever is right in that situation and either run it or kick it. He just doesn't have that initial acceleration because he's 107 kg. He doesn't have that initial acceleration to beat the player. Therefore, he gets caught 5 meters from his own try line.
Yeah.
So that is problem number one. Problem number two is something that we spoke about many, many times. The second Mark Talea try, he is 15, but he's the last man defensively. He rushes into the line.
He hasn't got a clue.
He really doesn't have a clue because he sprints into the line. It's Bowden Barrett taking the ball forward. He sprints into the line directly halfway between Bowden Barrett and Mark Talea, sprinting up, taking absolutely no one, leaving an enormous gap for either of them. If Bowden Barrett runs, which he did, there's an enormous gap. If he passes to Mark Talea, there's an enormous gap. He did precisely nothing, and it led to directly to that try.
With Stewart's size and physical advantage, right? And he does have a lot of size, a lot of physicality, so that's a plus. If he worked on all of his negatives and sorted them all out, he would become Tommy Freeman. Like, they have the answer to this. It's Tommy Freeman.
Yeah.
Tommy Freeman, I think, is just as good in the air. He's much better with ball in hand. He's almost
better acceleration.
He's almost as big.
Yeah.
He can offload. I mean, Tommy Freeman is exactly what everyone hopes Freddie Stewart will one day become.
And the solution...
And potentially, should the chat about Freddie Stewart being a potential 12 be something? Now there's central contracts, England might have the leverage to tell Leicester Tigers we really want him to play there.
Well, Borthwick had the ability 3 years ago to tell Leicester Tigers to play him there because he was the Leicester Tigers head coach.
Yeah. Didn't fancy it then. Why would he fancy it now?
But Tim, I think you're right. It might be too late in his career, but the model of what a 6'5"
24, isn't he? 23, 24?
Yeah,
Jordy
maybe.
Barrett.
But yeah,
Jordy Barrett's made the transition.
Well, that's exactly the model he should be looking at because he's almost identical height and weight to Jordy Barrett. They both started their career in the back three, and Jordy Barrett
23. So yeah,
is Freddie Stewart only 20? Okay,
the thing
maybe
is about Jordy Barrett is like
Jordy Barrett is legitimately fast though.
Jordy Barrett's a mercurial talent. Like, he just is. Freddie Stewart on paper and Jordy Barrett on paper are very similar. The realities are completely different.
That is true.
And it's very cruel to say because I don't like slamming players too much. What Freddie Stewart is an absolutely top end Premiership fullback, and
with exceptional size as well.
Yeah, and like you see, on occasions he's a serviceable international fullback, but he's not the long term answer.
Isn't it interesting though? Because do you remember after about 10 caps, the vast majority of people were saying with one voice, whether they were English or otherwise, that's England's fullback for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and I think it's because he has some great highlights going up in the air.
Yeah, and because of his exceptional size. But I think we have always been consistent that, yes, he does some things very good, very well. Although you've always caveated that.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, sometimes he does them well.
But I think we've always said we have concerns over those two bits that we highlighted before, which this game was a great example of why someone like Borthwick would choose, Furbank or even Marcus Smith over him.
You know that really annoying Sage advert that comes on when, was it, I can't remember who was it Amazon when they had the rugby, and Brian Habana slowing the turn.
Yes.
He was clearly talking about Freddie Stewart with that one.
He really was.
Not sure those two ever played against each other, but let's go with it.
Yeah. Just on Freddie, last thing on Freddie Stewart, I wonder if England could help him out a bit here. Because the other thing you've got to remember is England have been using fullback as a second playmaker, and he just doesn't do that.
No.
So it does. I just wonder if they could put him in a better position to succeed. But
put him on the wing. But then that doesn't solve the defensive positioning.
Not really. So yeah, he's got some stuff to work on, and I hope he solves it.
Me too. Me too.
Now, Wales, Australia, the loser bowl, Mark II.
Yes.
Oh, what a game! What a game this is. So there's so many things that you can get your teeth into here. Like so many things. Like the first thing I was thinking when Australia were coming out is Joe Schmidt really the answer for Australian rugby? Like I know he's a massive name, but what is Australia's problem?
It depends what their problem is, or it depends what their objective is, and what problems you're trying to solve.
Well, okay. So what do we think Australia's problems are?
Talent coming through.
Yeah, there are short and medium and long term problems. Probably the most concerning of which is the long term problems, which is they have a shrinking amount of talent and an inability to keep hold of the talent they do have.
Or would you put it a different way, which is they still have the same amount of talent, but the second point is more pertinent. They just got hold on.
Yeah, maybe.
It.
So the country itself has the same amount of talent, but I think there is a diminishing. I'm sure I've read stats that there is a diminishing number of people playing rugby union over rugby league.
I heard
or
the other way around. Actually, I
AFL.
heard recently the participation of rugby union is fairly healthy. I'm sure I've heard that. In fact, I think it was Will Kelleher in the Times that wrote something about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in with a very small, quick anecdotal thing from South Africa, which I've picked up. Because I hear stats like that a lot. Oh, participation's brilliant. And one thing that other countries always say about England is, how come you're not better? You've got more registered rugby players than any other country. Which is
I've got a story about this.
Which is true. But England's registered players, as we know, are like level 9, level 10, merit league, second team players, old boy vets players. England is incredibly good at keeping players playing at amateur levels beyond any time at which they could become an elite athlete. Whereas, as I've learnt in South Africa, it's basically the NFL. It is your Springbok and provinces, and then it's schoolboy, maybe a bit of varsity as well. But the gap in the middle, except for some parts like Cape Town, they have a good league system. Most of the country, most players do not play after
which is the same as France
school or university.
Yeah, France is very similar.
Is it?
It's like USA as well for basically all sports.
Which I think is bizarre, but nevertheless, I mean, I'd just say the argument of having a big based pyramid, other than it's a tremendous amount of fun, is you then get the next generation coming through who might be that. So if you've got lots of parents playing who love the game, but yeah, I fundamentally agree. Like, you know, when you think about
kind of like a political, it's kind of like the a rugby version of that political model that's pointed out, which is, this is more so in America, but conservative, quote unquote conservative, small c, are having more children, and Democrat are not having children. So basically, you're kind of down the line, you're skewing.
So you're saying
the voting block one way or another.
As you narrow your pyramid as you get older, then you're delaying the inevitable for the future, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something inside. There again, America's. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. But the other the other issue Australia has is they need an attractive brand of rugby to match all of their talent. And Joe Schmidt is renowned for not being an attractive rugby coach.
Pragmatic.
Yeah, and also I'm not entirely sure that I like the guy. So,
they've scored a few attractive tries over the last couple of weeks.
They have
the most attractive brand of rugby is winning rugby, though, right? Like, because
it is.
There would be some people that would turn their nose up at, only one try in that game between South Africa and Ireland. That was rugby from the gods.
Yeah. Well, quite. So here is the confounding thing which I found myself thinking on Saturday morning as Australia went through 23 phases. I was like, this is outrageous. Australia don't need this. And I thought, wait a second. What are you saying? You love 23 phases. You just don't like Joe Schmidt. But I think what I'm thinking of here is two things. Firstly, I'm thinking this might be the secret for Exeter Chiefs, but it's probably not the secret to get people flocking through the doors as neutral at international rugby. And the second thing I thought when it panned over to Gatland is, Christ, is international rugby coaching just for has-beens? Not has-beens, but people who've been there for a long time.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that Premier League football manager
Doesn't it?
situation where, well, you can only employ someone who's
done it.
This has changed a little bit now,
Yeah.
but historic it was, well, you can only employ someone who has worked in the Premier League before, therefore you're constrained to
Roy
these.
Hodgson and Sam Allardyce.
Sam Allardyce, yeah, exactly.
On a loop.
Yeah, Roy Hodgson, Sam Allardyce, or David Moyes.
Exactly.
Although David Moyes has come back into fashion lately. Ish.
Yeah, into fashion and then out of fashion at West Ham.
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to play attractive, I mean, how can I put this? Joe Schmidt has basically been retired, right? They got the most boring rugby coach out of retirement to revamp their national team, which, okay, if that's how you want to play, more power to you. But with all the exciting talent, whether it be in the NRL or Super Rugby or wherever they can find it in the world, they should have gone. They should have learned their lesson about how they treated Dave Rennie and gone for another Dave Rennie type.
But maybe.
Yeah, but, okay.
Sorry, you go, Tim.
Tim.
You go.
I was going to say, I take your point, but they've won 2 games, and there's a bit of something there you can grab hold of. There was even with fairly similar personnel, a few changes. There's an attitude shift. I think probably the more interesting one is what on earth has happened to Warren Gatland, and what on earth is he doing?
Well, I don't know is the answer. So I nearly gave up on this game because it sounds awful. I just thought the requisite talent is not on display for me to watch. I just don't want to watch these guys. I felt almost sad for them because they're so outclassed. Yeah. You look at, is it Ben Thomas, the fly half? He's so far off being an international fly half. And you can't blame the kid. He's got the international shirt. Make the most of it. But not even his club think he's a 10. They think he's a 12. And then he spanners that kick into nowhere. I'm like, oh,
well,
God.
the flip side argument of that is Leo Cullen doesn't think Kieran Frawley is worth a starting job, and he picked Ross Byrne. So sometimes club coaches can get it wrong.
Yeah, and I just look at the Wales team. I've said this so many times. There's very few players on here who are, the complete package. Like Rio Dyer is definitely international class quick. But that only counts if he's international class strong and big too. Mm-hmm. Like there's just not enough in this team in terms of international quality. The only thing I can really say which is promising is they are young. They are young, and actually an even better thing I can say for them is they have maybe more than any other team that played this weekend. No, actually Ireland were magnificent. Spirit. Like they do they considering what they've got to deal with and the tools at their disposal as a team, I do admire the way that they they just stick to their game, and that's a testament to Gatland actually.
And that's so one of the things we've spoken about many times. The Ben Darwin, the cohesion factor. Yeah. This team is going to play a lot of test matches together. From being the ages of wherever these lads are, some of them in their very early 20s, and they will get better because they've got some good raw components in there.
Oh, they can't get much worse.
Well, so playing against Australia, they scored 4 tries each in terms of the game. They scored some nice tries. They've done all right. There's stuff they can take out of this game, even though this now puts them 8 games, 8 losses. In 2024, I
think if I'm going, let's just be super positive for a little while. Derry Lake could possibly sit on the bench for the Lions behind Dan Sheehan. He looks legit.
Yeah,
I think I can see him being a leader in a Lions team. Yeah, Maybe that's it. David Jenkins is a remarkably good player. I think one day he, has that sort of world-class potential. But
Aaron Wainwright's had an amazing year.
Yeah, of course he was injured this week, wasn't he? But again,
Jack Morgan's not there.
Jack Morgan's not there. Those are two guys
just on the tactics. What I would say, and kind of it's a sort of, I guess it's a positive but a veiled criticism while saying positive.
They say opposites attract. That's why the Sleep Number Smart Bed is the best bed for couples. You want a bed that feels firm, but they want soft? Sleep Number does that. You want to sleep cooler while they like to feel warm? Sleep Number does that too. JD Power ranks Sleep Number number 1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now Sleep Number Smart Beds start at $999. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. For JD Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom. Like Evan, who can't stand salads and still lost 50 pounds.
Salads generally for most people are the easy button, right? For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. But Noom worked for me.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom user compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
Warren Gatland is playing and persisting with quite a Warren Gatland style of play, which is totally fine. But almost the one region that matches that the most is the Ospreys, the ones that have got that ability to kind of front up. In the URC, they actually were pretty good up front, and Warren Gatland has chosen to not pick a lot of Ospreys that probably could do a job within the system that he would want to do. So I get the whole he's going for youngsters and stuff, but there are quite legit good players that he's just left at home.
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it with that phrase, Tim. Quite legit. I think if you're Warren Gatland, you've got 4 years, you've got to roll the dice, haven't you? Like, quite legit, senior, kind of mid 20s to 30-year-old players who we know who they are. International rugby is all about kind of what they might be in the future, and these guys might be something in the future. I mean, Christ Sajunda, could be an extraordinary talent. I personally don't think he is. I don't think he's going to become what we think. I don't think he's going to be even half the player that Mario Itoje is, because that was the guy who he's compared to. I don't see anything
the
like
way
that
he
at
was
all.
talked about the way you heard stories about him a few years ago, he was like Freddie Adu in Football Manager.
Yes, very much so. And he wasn't even the best young second row in Exeter, it turns out.
Yeah, well, David Jenkins could be that player.
David Jenkins, mate.
I think he really could. I think he's incredible. Christ Tajunza will be a good player. Whether he's becomes world class is another matter.
Yeah.
David could be.
Cameron Winnett could possibly be something.
Needs to put on about 15 kilograms.
Yeah, it's really tough. I do, but even though I've said all these awful things, I do truly admire the way that they stick to their task. I mean, if you looked at them in the Six Nations, they could have got hammered. I mean, I think one game they might have actually got hammered, but they do things like only concede 4 penalties all game. Like they do some remarkable things which you only do with a lot of courage and a lot of discipline. So I guess if you get the discipline right, maybe you can do it with substandard players, but I tend to think you can't.
And they didn't get the discipline right this week.
No.
They conceded 13 penalties.
28 points is pretty impressive.
It is. Four tries each as well.
Yeah.
And unlike many of their games this week, it wasn't penalty tries as well. They actually had 3 try scorers because Dowie Lake got a brace, but they actually scored tries.
Yeah. So
isn't it fortunate and brilliant how the matchups worked? Because this could have been. Imagine it was New Zealand against Wales, England in South Africa, and Ireland in Australia. It could have been awful.
Yeah, these have been legitimately good test matches.
Yeah, they did well actually. By luck, I imagine as much as anything. So Tim, you were here. You were here for the Ireland South Africa game. Both
So
of
good.
them.
Have you been to what rugby have you seen? You went to a Lions game, did you, in South Africa?
I might have been. I might have gone to the first test where Ugo Monye ruined it for everyone. I might have done that one. I might have watched the second test where Ronald O'Gara ruined it for everyone. Actually, that's a lie. I'm only jesting about Ugo Monye. He actually played very, very well, and they did win. And they were seconds away from winning the series. Oh, hang on. No, they lost.
They lost the first
They
two.
lost. No, Ugo Monye did ruin it for everyone.
They won the third. They won the third test.
That's right, they did.
Test.
Yes.
I was drunk for that one.
Phil Vickery got absolutely mullered by Tendai Mtambuwera in the first test.
Beast.
And Ugo Monye ruined it. No joking. and then it was at Ellis Park. It was Ellis Park, Johannesburg, where Ronan O'Gara.
Who was the other wing? Was it Tommy Bowe?
Tommy Bowe. Loftus. It was Loftus Versfeld, wasn't it?
Yeah, Loftus Versfeld was second test. The first test was in Durban.
Shane Williams was on that tour as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, Shane Williams was. He played the third test, definitely. Simon Shaw played the third test.
Did Tommy Bowe play 13 in one of the tests? Am I making that up?
Well, maybe he did. No, because Brian O'Driscoll would have played 13.
No, because
might have been a midweek game or something, Phil.
Brian O'Driscoll got concussed, didn't he, in the second test?
Yeah, but I'm talking first test.
Yeah, I'm just talking in one of the tests.
Right, maybe.
So in the first test, I've just got it up. First test was Brian O'Driscoll and Jamie Roberts, centre partnerships. Second test was... That's not the second test. That's the third test. Wow, the third test is...
Now, the third test...
is an incredible partnership.
Wait. I'm going to pull a name out of the hat here. Was the third test 12 Ricky Flutie?
The third test was Ricky Flutie. And
no.
Gordon Darcy out of position slightly.
It was someone out of position.
Hang on. Let's just all calm down. Let's all calm down. Think this through.
Jason Robinson.
Not Jason Robinson. This would have been a couple of years too far. I think Jason Robinson was playing for Fylde at this time.
Yeah, you're right.
Tommy. I'm not going to say Tommy Bowe because you've said it and you'd already would have confirmed it was Tommy Bowe. The tour before that was New Zealand, right? No, it wasn't him. Is it a winger?
It is a winger.
Who would play
Luke
winger?
Fitzgerald was the starting winger in...
was it Earl?
Wasn't him. Not Horgan or...
No.
So Earl went and he was 19 years old.
Not the... Was he Irish?
He was Irish.
Yeah, it's that guy.
Luke McGrath,
McGrath
or whatever his name is.
No.
God, what's the guy's
what
name?
What happened to his podcast?
Oh man, he was the number 11 for Ireland for bloody ages.
He might have been mentioned.
Oh man, I'll tell me.
Tommy Bowe.
It was Tommy Bowe.
You ruined that because
it was Tommy Bowe. Well, come on, Phil.
Come on.
I said Tommy Bowe. I said Tommy,
and I said if it's Tommy Bowe, you would have said so. We'd have got Tommy Bowe ages ago.
No, when I said Tommy Bowe, you both said no, never. He never played a test.
I thought about it certainly, and then Shane Williams on one wing. Lee Halfpenny might have played actually.
For the third test was Ugo and Shane Williams.
Played.
Yeah, with Rob Carney. Because Rob Carney, in maybe the first test or second test, he put in one of the all-time performances for
amazing,
like genuinely one of the best performances ever.
Because I wanted
for a fullback.
Who did I want to play? I wanted Lee Byrne to play. Lee Byrne was amazing at this time.
Yes,
and Carney is like some Irish kid, and that turns out to be amazing.
Yes,
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Lee Byrne was in the squad. Halfpenny was in the squad.
Yeah.
There you go.
And do you know who else is in that squad? Who was great fun? Oh, maybe not, actually. Maybe it's this time before that.
Andy Powell?
Andy Powell, yeah.
Andy Powell was in that squad.
Was he? Yeah, there we go. Andy Powell, what a lad.
Yeah.
I love that. That second test was the one where Simon Shaw finally got his Lions cap.
That's right, in the third test.
Second or third?
Second.
No, third.
Because they got beaten up in the first test, so McGeechan brought in...
I think it's a third test.
Brought in Adam Jones at tight head and brought Simon Shaw in second row.
I think he played third test, or started third test.
He started in the second.
He did as well.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah.
There you go, take it back.
And then in the third. Started, second and third.
That, by the way, second test was the night that I went to meet R. Kelly. Me and R. Kelly.
At the after party.
Yeah, if only we knew how our lives would have diverged.
Oh, was that in Santon? I remember thinking that when I was there. Like, oh, this is where JB saw R. Kelly.
Yeah, exactly right. Hang out with R. Kelly for a night.
So yeah, that's how we got onto this. I was asking you if you'd seen matches in South Africa. So it has blown my mind. The pre-game and post-game, actually, the whole day they make of it is incredible.
So good, isn't it?
Like nothing else I've ever seen.
Like the Lions' first test, we showed up at Durban.
Yeah.
And we drank solidly for about 5 hours, and we did not want to watch the game. Like, we were very happy not to watch the game and carry on.
So,
were you in the car park outside, or were you in the bars around?
Absolutely in the car park.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I remember going to the Pilkington Cup as a kid. Oh, sorry for a
No, you go. Tell me about the Pilkington Cup.
No, I was just going to say Pilkington Cup. As a kid, I remember Newbury Rugby Club would get a couple of busloads, and we'd go down, and it would be a picnic in the West car park.
Oh, you've just managed to. Sorry. Phil's just managed to put his. Phil's just managed to put his legs on the mixer, and you've got the psycho music to the background of your story.
Well played.
It's still going.
Nice. Still going. It will stop soon.
Oh God!
Please continue.
Isn't there a fader you can pull?
No,
down?
It's one of those ones which if you touch it again, it just starts again.
Oh,
we'll be here for hours touching it.
So yeah, it made me miss that element of Twickenham, because now you cannot get, with all your booze and barbecues and stuff, you could not get. It's literally outside the gate into the stadium. There are people with barbecues out, beers. There's it is as far as the eye can see in every field around the stadium. Like to the point where I went, all these people cannot get in that stadium.
But a lot of them don't.
Unbelievable.
A lot of them don't. Like, you go to the NFL tailgates, a lot of them just watch all the games on their screens at the tailgate.
So the game was at Kings Park, wasn't it, Tim?
Yeah, Kings Park. And the other thing that strikes you when you're there is every single person that goes into the ground has a South Africa shirt on.
Do they?
Every single person has a green and gold shirt on. It's remarkable. And I think they do a thing in South Africa called Bok Friday, where when there's a South Africa game, everyone in the country goes to work, goes to school in a Springbok jersey.
Amazing.
And to the point that quite often in some places where, there's a bit of people don't have a lot of money and stuff, the bosses just buy all their staff South Africa shirts. That's why they all have one. It is something quite remarkable, actually.
Is there a difference in fan atmosphere between the two stadiums?
Oh, massive.
Tell me about them.
I was slightly relieved that South Africa won in Pretoria because with them hammering brandy and coke, I don't know what it is about brandy. When I think of brandy, I think pouring it on your Christmas pudding before you light it, maybe having it with a cigar, with some gentlemen in a drawing room late at night.
In your wobble
in South
snifter.
Africa, it's 11 in the morning on a match day, smashing brandy and coke, especially in Pretoria.
The dream.
And there was just an edge in the atmosphere. I mean, it was so much fun, and the anthem and all of that, and the noise, it was incredible. But there was a little bit of me that went, I'm really pleased South Africa won that one, because it might have been a bit edgy.
Yeah.
But Kings Park, but at Durban, it was just like, disappointed we lost. Oh, well, let's have a party.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, living in Durban, there are ways to alleviate your sadness.
Well, when I went to Kings Park to watch the Jaguares, I'm sure there were jacuzzis by the side of the pitch for some of the fans. Yeah. And it seemed, I think I spotted like a water slide complex to one end of the...
Yes. Exactly that. There's water slides into a pool.
Awesome.
At the other end, I met the guy. He owns a couple of bars in Umhlanga, and in fact, he owned the one where Ireland were partying last night. And you might have seen a little viral clip of Ireland players all standing on tables singing "Zombie." They've now reclaimed that song fully, and it was in their bar. But he owns the end of the ground, which is a nightclub all the time, and on a match day, it's a club, Kingston Beach Club, and the bottom tier of the stand at one end is a club with sand on the floor, cocktail bar in the middle, and people just You go to the cocktail bar and you're just by the dead ball area. It's mental.
Awesome.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
So how was the atmosphere at full time then? Other than people wanting to go to party.
Is this Zombie? No, it means nothing to me. Right. Go on.
What did you say, Phil?
Yeah, how was the atmosphere at full time? Were a lot of people obviously wanting to party, but were a lot of the Springbok fans kind of gutted because did it feel like they, after getting themselves back in front through the penalty machine that is Handré Pollard, did it feel like they threw it away, or were they admiring the incredible spirit and fight in that Irish team?
Yeah, they were disappointed, but actually what I found really noticeable was they clapped Ireland off the pitch. They actually, and the person that was sat next to me was this woman. I just said, well, what do you think of that? And she went, we played football, they played rugby. Well done.
Wow. So I don't agree with this at all.
Well, I'm not sure. I 100% agree. I think she's saying that they couldn't score a try. I think was the point she was making. We couldn't score a try.
Okay, yeah, but she was actually right on that. So
yeah.
So I thought Ireland were done here. I thought they were so done. I thought they had to play at 110%, which is exactly what they did. They came out flying. I mean, and also the other element of the game which I really enjoyed was watching Caelan Doris carry ball. Like, not smart carries, like just deliberate, hard, leadership carries, just to set the tone. And they weren't particularly successful, but he did it 2 or 3 times, slamming into the line just to set the tone. And I like that. I like it a lot. Actually,
just on setting the tone. One interesting thing. So I saw. I spent a bit of time with Murray Kinsella over here.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
good rugby guy.
He is.
And he said, and it's bit when you look at Andy Farrell's press conferences and what some of the players were saying in the week, you got it. But setting the tone, Andy Farrell was apparently absolutely livid with the players not fighting last week. And when I say fighting, I don't mean throwing punches. I mean, like when RG Snyman walloped Craig Casey, bit of a cheap shot, none of the players went in and started pushing and shoving. And apparently there were team meetings this week where Andy Farrell had a load of clips just basically highlighting that. Like, hold on, one of your mates is having someone push him and you're just standing and watching. What are you doing? And it was like apparently that a lot of the attention wasn't about tactics and wasn't about little subtleties like that. It was just pure, come on, like roll your sleeves up and fight, which is very Andy Farrell when you think about it, where his background, where he's from. And you saw that the first 5 minutes.
Definitely.
Eben Etzebeth streaming with blood, Franco Moster hobbling off, Villy LaRue out. As you say, Caelan Doris trucking it up just hard. Every single time through the whole match, when there was any niggle, every Irish player flew straight in. There was just an attitude shift.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Completely agree with it. And what you say, you could... Well, now you say it, I should say, it does chime with exactly what I saw. Exactly what I saw.
I thought the physicality from Ireland was superb in every single facet of the game, except for the scrum again.
They which is substandard.
Struggled. Which, considering those two are Lions, they're two of the best props in the Northern Hemisphere. It's concerning for the Northern Hemisphere. It's a hell of a thing for South Africa to have such a good scrum.
Yeah.
But if you don't have everything else, and South Africa, outside of their scrum and Handré Pollard's boot, they were the second best team in almost every facet of play.
Let's just pretend for a second Ireland lost this game, right? There are so many things which I see here which happened both in the European Cup final and for Ireland in general. So the first thing was I thought they had to fight far too hard in the first 10 to get any parity. I thought they were going 110% and maybe South Africa at 95%, and that's just to get parity. Now, what they did manage to do is score an absolutely sensational try. That try was amazing. But it was also a bit lucky. Osborne sort of juggles the ball, and that's what gets him over the gain line. But then the interplay afterwards, you can't argue with that. That was sensational.
Yep.
After that, you can just feel them starting to creak, and they're getting overpowered, and the substitutes come on. The momentum, which turns out not really a thing anymore, was going against them. And the last thing, which I thought in particular is this very concerning habit that both Ireland and Leinster have, which is we think we're going to start with this guy, but then when it's not working at fly half, we'll panic, throw someone else on, and just say, just do something, do anything, just try and spark us back into life. Fine if you've got Finn Russell, not so much if you don't. Now, in the European Cup final, they were a kick away from winning it. They were a drop goal away from winning it, and they missed. Now Frawley? Is that who came on?
Kieran Frawley.
Kieran Frawley. To come on. No, not one, but two.
Two.
I mean, that's a gamble that's paid off. That does not happen very often, but it did happen.
And 2 from 40+ metres as well.
Yeah.
So they were not easy kicks, especially the second one with that much pressure. Pressure of the occasion, not that any South Africa players were particularly close. But just on you said that they were, after the try, they were kind of crumbling a little bit. And it's funny because, so after the try, South Africa had 20 minutes of pressure.
Yeah.
They scored very, very shortly after the try, they scored one penalty. Pollard, and then Ireland just could not get out of their half.
No.
And I was absolutely like, South Africa had multiple scrums, they had multiple kicks to the corner, they had multiple phases for long periods of time with ball in play, and they only, after 20 minutes, they got out there with a penalty because Ireland turned them over, Ireland held them back repeatedly, and it was an amazing period of Irish defence and defiance in their own half. And then after that second penalty that made it 10-6, Ireland, basically from the kickoff, within 30 seconds of kicking off, they had a penalty and they moved the scoreline back to 6 points. So South Africa, I guess my point was, South Africa had to work for 16 minutes inside Ireland's half to get the second one of those 3 points, and had to work for 30 seconds inside South Africa's half to get 3 points. And so I thought I thought the first half, Ireland were excellent, really excellent. When pressure came on them and taking their opportunities in South Africa's half, the second half was a different story, and that's when the pressure started to tell.
Yeah, and they moved. So ultimately they won, and that's fine. The Times in particular put this as one of Ireland's greatest wins. I disagree, actually. It's one of the most exciting wins. It's certainly one of the wins which will live longest in the memory because of the spectacle. So maybe it's one of Ireland's greatest spectacles, but it's not one of their greatest wins, because one of their greatest wins would be to go over in South Africa and smash them and leave such a dominant performance that you'd be confident they could do it again. I'm not confident that Ireland play this game again, that they'd win. Far from it. In fact, I think we play this game...
Possibly not, but that I think that was a statement, though, that, scrums aside, which is a massive concern, and for not just for Ireland, but for the whole of the Northern Hemisphere, as you say, well, British Isles and Ireland anyway. But but it's that they did beat South Africa up front. They did beat them up. Honestly, I'll tell you, it was the sight of Ep60 with his head streaming with blood, I think, rocked people in that ground. I think
it maybe rocked people in the ground, but I think ultimately Ep60 did come back on, and then they started to get the upper hand. And I think
but he got monstered.
Yeah, fair.
He got beaten up by Joe McCarthy and James Ryan. James Ryan was immense.
McCarthy was superb as well. This is such a breakout year for McCarthy.
He is. Yeah, he is the number one, isn't he?
He was bad. He was poor last week.
Yeah,
and he was brilliant this week. But some of the performances that I thought were most remarkable. So Ireland looked absolutely screwed. South Africa went in front on about 56, 57 minutes, something like that.
Yep.
Or no. Well, yeah. It was around that, about 60-minute mark. They actually got in front, and at that point, Ireland just looked spent. And Cian Healy came on, and they brought all these replacements on, and you thought, well, Cian Healy's not Andrew Porter, etc. I can't remember.
Yeah, Finlay Bealham coming on.
Finlay Bealham, there you go. Yeah, thank you. But actually, the replacements were really good. And in the case of Ireland's scrum half, their third choice that I'd just written off as being past it now, had an awesome game. Conor Murray was great.
Conor Murray
Blade
was
all right when he came on.
He knows a thing or two about rugby, does Conor Murray.
Conor Murray, superb. And in terms of Andy Farrell as well, the call to drop Peter O'Mahony, who himself is a big boy, but to allow you to have McCarthy, Ryan, and Tyburn on the park in the starting pitch the whole time. That's a big call.
That is, and also it's a nice sounding pack, isn't it?
It's a massive. He's your captain for the toys. Your captain, full stop, and to drop him for a positional and tactical change to make sure you've got enough ballast and it working is a hell of a call, that one.
Yeah, it is a good win. I just think it's not an all-time great. It's an all-time great spectacle. It's not an all-time great win.
I think you're probably right in that, but it's, I guess the rumours of Ireland's demise were maybe
greatly exaggerated.
Yeah, perhaps. They're still a hell of a team.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it is remarkable to get back into the game after succumbing to losing a 10-point lead.
Yeah.
That in itself is very, very impressive.
10 point, and however many penalties there were in that second half, because it went from a 10-point lead to a 6-point deficit.
Yeah,
or 5-point deficit, whichever it was.
Although, what would happen if Ireland just put Frawley on to start with? In the same way as maybe Leinster should be doing this now.
Well, Jack Crowley's a very good player. It's whether you get the two of them in there at the same time.
But is it kind of one of those things where he only looks good because they throw him into lost causes and go, just do whatever I'm done. I'm out of ideas.
Don't know.
Just go and win this for me, and we'll just talk about what happens later.
Don't know. But
no, I think Andy Farrell he's done this before. So Kieran Frawley, he likes in a way that Leo Cullen hadn't rated, and he picked him just above the second, third, and fourth choice Leinster 10s, and he's gone, no, I'll have him. But he did the same with Jameson Gibson Park. He picked him as Ireland's starting 9 when he was second choice at Leinster.
Interesting.
So either that's Leo Cullen is poor, or Andy Farrell is a man with convictions and an eye for talent.
Well, let's look at Leo Cullen's recent Champions Cup record, shall we? Let's do it that way.
Yep. One in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Five finals, I think.
And what about his URC record?
Not good for the last few years.
No. So I think we know what. I think we have the answer.
Kieran Frawley will be Leinster's 10 now, starting next season, and that's a good spot for Ireland to be in. Frawley 10 for Leinster, Crowley 10 for Munster. Your 2 10s.
I tell you what
provinces.
I'd be talking about today. Had Ireland have lost, I'd be talking about. Is it Jamie Osborne?
The 15.
Yeah, what a performance.
Well,
last week he was great as well.
I was going to go the other way, Tim. So what I was going to say is...
he wasn't good.
No, what I was going to say is something slightly different, which is like 90% good. But to me, it just highlighted how on top of your game you need to be as an international fullback, because he's obviously a fine player. I really like him as a 12. And I thought he did a good job. But there were a couple of instances where he was just caught out. And he couldn't do anything.
He made one mistake when the ball bounced down the touchline.
I've got 2. But I mean, when you're in a 1-point game in the end, I just thought it was quite an interesting. It was quite an interesting case study of how absolutely nailed on fullbacks needs. You can't have a single mistake. A single mistake.
I don't know who the man of the match was, but I had him as I had him as my man of the match.
The man of the match was given to Ox Nche.
Oh, he had a awesome game, to be fair.
He did.
Yeah,
his hits were incredible.
He did have a great game.
Yeah.
But
and Ireland's scrum percentage was 56%. But if you went on the convention of picking a player from the winning team, I go with Jamie Osborne. I thought he was the best player for Ireland. The way that they used him coming in as like an extra centre, loved it. In a way, he has things he can do that Hugo Keenan can't. I'm not saying he'll get picked.
There's no doubt for me that he could be a world-class fullback, but he's not currently a world-class fullback. But I'm sure if they moved him there, they would have no issues.
Well, I think he's a centre predominantly.
Yeah.
Well, he plays 12 for Leinster.
Yeah. That's where I've seen him. Although, what was it? Was it sending comms that in the under-20s a couple of years ago he played?
Yeah. I just think as a fullback, and we see this with Freddie Stewart, you just can't have any mistakes. Like one mistake is one too many, and particularly when you want to be the absolute best in the world and be fighting with South Africa, you can't have a single mistake. 3 points. Well, 3 points would have won it. You certainly can't have Freddie Stewart.
But no player doesn't make a single mistake.
Yeah,
like
Bowden Barrett doesn't make a mistake.
Bowden Barrett in 30 minutes was amazing. He still made a couple of mistakes.
Yeah,
like everyone. It's an impossibly high standard.
So there were seven bombs went up, and some of them, oh my goodness, like Sasha Feinberg Gomazulu.
Oh yeah, what do we know about him?
Put some absolute giant bombs up that came down with ice on them, and Osborne was 7 from 7.
Do you know my favourite?
Yeah,
Sasha Feinberg and Zulu, however you say his name, moment. He's not a big boy, is he? Have I got this wrong?
No, he's not a big boy.
He's not a big boy. What I loved about it is he dummied to chip and chase, and then decided to try and run someone over, and he nearly got away with it. I think just as a surprise that the diminutive little guy is coming towards you, I'll dummy the chip, and then tries to run over someone. Love that. Love the audacity.
I said it the other week. I'll say it again. Hear me now, believe me later. Future World Player of the Year. He's so good. So there's one video I did where I was at the captain's run at Ellis Park. At Loftus last week, and I was just doing a little bit to camera, and Sasha Feinberg Gomazulu was behind me, and I was just saying, this is what I love about this guy. Blah blah blah. He's just a rock star of a rugby player. And just after I said it, a ball got kicked to him, and he just casually caught it between his two ankles.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Easy.
I tell you who is a rock star. I mean, maybe it's my personal bias, but Peter Steptoe. He was South Africa captain this weekend, wasn't he? He certainly was at the end. So did he study?
Yeah, no, Khaleesi.
But when Sia went off, yeah.
Ah, right. So he was captain towards the end. And when he's striding towards the referee to tell the referee exactly how the referee should referee the game, I thought, what a man. I mean, I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously I'm massively in love with the guy, but he is the finest looking. I mean, if I could draw a rugby player from scratch, if I could engineer one using DNA and whatnot, that's what they would be. They'd be him, and then playing in that position. He is maybe the perfect rugby player.
So
yeah, and if we have spoken about if we were picking an all-time team, he's one player from the current era that would arguably get in his position.
Yes,
yeah, I need to make my millions.
He might be the greatest blindside flanker ever.
Greatest back row ever. Yeah, I'll go with that.
There's been some unreal number 8s.
He's up there. He's certainly one of the best blindsides.
He needs one more World Cup, I think.
One
more, because
Richie
McCaw's got 2 or 3.
2.
He needs one more World Cup. I mean, Richie McCaw, as amazing as he is.
No, him and Richie McCaw would be the perfect. That would be it.
Blindside
6 or 7.
Yeah, blindside, open side.
So I don't agree. I don't agree at all, because I think that, I think that Peter Steptoe he can't play exactly the same as Richie McCaw. In fact, he plays nothing like Richie McCaw, but he could play 7, allowing you to put an absolute monster at 6.
Yeah. I mean, he is an absolute monster.
No,
bigger
than Peter
Steptoe.
Or if I could have 2 Peter Steptoes.
Well, that solves your problem then.
Yeah,
just play both of them.
I don't think I'd want 2. And here's the thing: I wouldn't want 2 Richie McCaws, but I would happily have 2 Peter Stephs, maybe even 3. I don't know if you can play 8.
Yeah, put one at lock. That's where it started.
Yeah, loose head lock as well. 6, 7 loose.
I'd have 4 of them.
5, 6, and 7.
Marauding around the field. You'd never lose a game again. You wouldn't lose a game of 7s, let alone a game of 15s.
He was kept fairly quiet yesterday.
And I've got 2 observations on Peter Steptoe. Who he had another good game. He's a hell of a player. The very easy penalty that I mentioned before that Ireland got just before half time was because Peter Steptoe stepped across. I think it might have been Jamie Osborne, but I could be wrong on that. To block him on a bomb, and in stepping across him, which Carl Dixon spotted, he threw himself to the floor because he realised he'd blocked him and he'd taken out the defensive player or the chasing player, and then he threw himself to the ground, which I thought was pretty pathetic. And
Cheslin Colby did a bit of a dive as well, didn't he?
Well, yeah, the second thing was at the end. There was a few Springboks who didn't cover themselves in glory. Cheslin Colby
whinging to the ref.
Yeah, Cheslin Colby, Damien Diolande and Peter Steph-Totoy, who was, fair enough, he's the captain. He was trying to have a word with the referee. And Caelan Doris did something that was a bit reminiscent of the 2017 final, or it was the semi-final, the test in the Lions, where Richie McCaw, it was right at the end of the game, where Richie McCaw, and I can't remember who was the Lions player, it might have been Peter O'Mahony, it might have been Warburton, if he was even still playing then. And Caelan Doris kind of put his arm around him when Peter Steph-Totoy was trying to tell Dixon that he got it wrong, and Totoy reacted and slapped.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a really. It showed him in a bad light. It showed his negative frustration, which obviously you will be frustrated losing a game like that.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. There was nothing wrong there. It wasn't.
I couldn't think of anything wrong.
Yeah. There's a slight hint of a lean from Doris towards Cheslin Colby.
Oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah, Colby just
completely agree.
Colby just throws himself on the floor.
Yeah,
and if that's the only thing you're complaining about, then you shouldn't be complaining. You certainly shouldn't be reacting like that.
I will say one thing for South Africa. They are like it's Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren levels of promoting rugby here. They in the stadium about half an hour before kickoff. So the players are all out on the pitch warming up, and on the big screen they just showed loads of clips of Irish media saying Ireland are the best team in the world. I mean, some of these clips might be 3 years old, but they just hyped
when
it up
Ireland
so
were
much.
literally the best team in the world.
Yeah, and there was one thing that happened at that pool match in the Rugby World Cup, which just got used as fuel for these matches, which was after Ireland beat South Africa in Paris. One of the Irish players, I forget which one, went up to a couple of the South Africans, I think it was Dialende, and said, "We'll see you in the final." And you and I, we you know what they meant by that. They meant, geez, you're a damn good team. Don't worry
Yeah,
about
I think
that
that's quite a
defeat.
nice thing to say.
Either one of us could have lost, and you know what? We're both going to do well. See you in the final. But that was spun as some kind of put down. Like we're getting to the final. Obviously, we are getting to the final, so we'll see you there, and we'll have you again.
Ooh. I'd say it's the opposite. I think it's a mark of respect.
I totally agree.
I think there's a little bit of hubris there, though.
Oh, because there clearly was. Because one of them didn't get to the final.
Yeah. But it's a mark of respect towards South Africa, certainly.
Yes.
Now, there's a game we haven't spoke about, because I imagine no one's watched it. But what a tour the French are having. They're not going to forget this one in a hurry, are they?
There's a few people that want to forget it.
Yeah. Well, it was shortly after we recorded last week, and I just got home, and it was blowing up the Jaminet news, and the video of, oh my God, what? I mean, he posted it on his own Instagram.
Yeah, post on an Entomax Instagram, for God's sakes.
What on earth is he was he thinking?
Was it a video or was it?
It's a video. It was a video of him walking through the streets saying what he said, which we all know, which is, if I see
an Arab,
I will hit him with a helmet.
Goodness me.
Which is insane. So stupid.
That is kind of like self-implosion. Like, it's almost like there's like some.
I wonder if he'll be
treated.
treated. I wonder if he'll be treated as badly as Israel Folau.
It's a great point.
I wonder if he'll be harassed by certain people on the online community.
Oh no, I'm absolutely certain Squidge will have started a fundraiser.
No, we don't. Yeah, we don't mention by name. That isn't fair. But in general, I wasn't talking about that, just one individual. In general, like, you got to remember, Israel Folau had his funding removed for his legal defence when he's about to go to court.
Yeah,
you know, his treatment was absolutely disgusting. So it'll be interesting to see what the parallels are. But even more interesting to see in, say, year 2035, if, you know, when you mention, do you remember that tour to Argentina, what the French boys would say? Yeah, we had one too many.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah, it got a bit heavy, that tour.
It's unusual for the Argentinians to be kind of outdone on this stuff, isn't it?
Pablo Matera is delighted about all of this.
Was he out with Pablo Matera? We need to find this out. And then, of course, there was the rather disturbing news of, were they in Mendoza?
The first test was Mendoza.
Mendoza, flying to Buenos Aires, and 2 of the boys were arrested for sexual assault, and then back to Mendoza.
God,
This is it's turning into quite some tour, boys. You probably need to rein it in a bit, I would say.
yes, yeah. But the game,
On the flip side, like you, I'm not suggesting there would be anything criminal or salacious, but Scotland, no one is even interested in their games. But
Oh,
what
God,
a
I
fun
forgot about
tour
them.
what a fun tour that must be to be on. Where
Yeah.
they must be having a proper tour.
yeah. Where is that? Obviously, they played Canada the first game. This was
They
USA.
played Canada, USA, and then they played Uruguay. No,
Yeah,
Did they
yeah,
play
no.
Uruguay?
No, France played Uruguay midweek, I think.
Oh right, yeah.
And Argentina play Uruguay next week, I want to say. Yes, they do.
It's North
Yes.
American anyway, so it's Canada, USA, and someone else they're playing.
Yeah, so the French team this week, short of 3 players, got soundly beat by lots of things. I didn't see the game, and it's a full-fat Argentina team from what I can tell.
It was full fat.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
Did you see it?
It was an end. Yeah, I watched the whole thing. Watched it all live.
Okay.
Saran was good again. Gaeton in centre looks really good. Atisogbe's pretty cool
Yeah,
on the wing.
both of those wingers are very exciting. Barre or Bar, the fullback, was exciting.
Leo Barre.
Not Biel Barre.
No, Leo Barre.
Leo Barre.
Leo Barre.
Yes.
Barre.
He's also...
Galiton, the 13.
Leo Barre
Yeah,
Barre
he's
is
very
also... your boy... what do you call him?
My boy, Bordeaux.
Yeah, Bordeaux, yeah? Is that right?
That's Boros.
Oh, it is
That's-
Boris,
that's-
yes.
Yeah, that's Boros.
And Biel Barre. They've got... So, France scored 3 lovely tries, and they had some beautiful moves throughout the game. Argentina ultimately just had a bit too much up front for them, which is
Not surprising.
not surprising, but they didn't last week. Argentina last week were woefully poor, and it's basically the same team. They scored some nice tries, and Thomas Gallo, the cuboidal prop who came off the bench this week, lovely loose head. He scored 2 ace tries as well towards the end.
He is very cuboid. Did the French go out after this, or what was he? What was the post match?
Still awaiting reports, but no, they would have celebrated this with a nice little drink.
Well, give it 12 more hours. That's when news tends to break.
Just a nice quiet one. There was only 2 people charged with GBH and one person's checked into Alcoholics Anonymous.
Imagine this in the 60s, right? Imagine we're back in the 60s where it's not social media, it's not anything else. So obviously, what's his name gets off scot-free.
Yeah. Jaminet.
Jaminet gets off scot-free. No one, it's just not going to happen, right? Maybe there's a travelling reporter with them, but probably not if they've gone to Argentina. Maybe there is, maybe there's not. These boys have got to fly back, and they've got to explain to the wives or girlfriends where the other 2 are. Like that's what they must have done back in the day. Well, where are they? You're not going to believe this. They got in some bother. There's nothing you can say.
And it's from the reports as well for the other 2 boys.
Sounds bad. Justice should be served, and it will be served.
It sounds bad.
Make your own
yeah,
bed.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But if the allegations are true, then yeah, justice needs to be served.
Yeah, quite.
And then in the future they'll play for Montpellier.
Oh yeah, Montpellier made their announcements this week, didn't they?
So who have they got?
Yeah.
Billy V. Who was the other? It's a Georgian prop, Billy V.
What's he done?
Abby's Billy V. And then the comeback.
The teeth, the hair.
They're back. 32-year-old Stuart Hogg. Only 32.
Yeah, he's got plenty of rugby left in him, I imagine.
I mean, he's a hell of a player. Hell of a player.
Yeah, he's got some.
He's a bit of wear and tear on that body through on-field and off-field activities.
Yeah.
A bit of a mental strain I'm sure he's under at the moment. But if they can get him anywhere near back to his best, back fit, he's one of the best fullbacks in the world. He was one of the best fullbacks in the world.
Yeah, he knows a thing or two about rugby. I'm sure he'll be fine there as a player.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I'm just looking at the clock, and if you want to watch the football, we should wrap this up.
Okay, well, just 2 things I want to say. First one is I spent Friday evening having a beer with an old friend of the pod, Doug from More Over Podcast.
Oh, cool.
Which is very, very nice. And also a colleague of yours, Tim, I understand, in your French rugby ventures.
Indeed.
So that was nice.
Indeed. Good man. He's a good man.
And another thing, which I'm not allowed to talk about, but I got a message the other day that one of our listeners was in a job interview. And during his job interview, they spoke about rugby, and the person interviewing him said, I listen to a podcast. It's called EggChasers. So they bonded in their interview over our podcast. Now, I can't mention who it is, but if you are that interviewer offering that job, offer that man that job. I think we can all agree he should offer him that job.
Absolutely.
So
100. I mean, that is the sort of, see, interesting, because that could have been a fork in the road, because he could have said a different thing. I listened to, and it's kind of might have been a little, this isn't the right thing for me, but I reckon they would have come together over that. I reckon he got the job.
It takes a certain type of person to listen to our podcast. There are other podcasts available, but other non-like-minded.
Someone who really genuinely loves rugby and everything about rugby and all the stuff surrounding rugby. Yeah.
Yes.
One thing for me. Did you see? I've not seen any of the game, but did you see the squads for England versus Ireland under 20s?
England. No.
Tim, you might have seen it.
No.
In fact,
so I was looking at the England team to see if there's anyone I know.
read the team to me.
Well, I'll tell you some of the names you know. So Ben Redshaw, Newcastle, Asher Opoku for Jaw,
Okay.
Henry Pollock.
Henry Pollock's great.
Henry Pollock's a lovely player. Lovely player. There's a Junior Kapoku playing in the second row for England. All that quite interesting. One name stood out to me for the Ireland team. The 13. Think of the most Irish name you can possibly think of.
Oh, it's that.
Is it O'Farrell?
South African fella, isn't it?
It
South
is,
African name.
It is the South African fellow.
Van Neerkerk or something like that.
He's called Wilhelm de Klerk.
Yeah.
Sorry, Wilhelm de Klerk.
O'Kirk.
Wilhelm de Klerk, who I did a little bit of reading. So his South African family moved to Ireland when he was 10. So he's not, unless this is a really advanced player pathway.
Very advanced.
Very advanced. But it'd be an interesting one because it's a hell of a name. So it'd be an interesting one to watch.
Do you think you could change your name to something a bit more South African? Tim de Cocker. De Cock.
De Cock.
De Cock.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the French project, I'm Lecoq, and I'll be De Cock.
There we go. What a chameleon.
Yeah.
So
we're ending the podcast. We must on the next pod or on a Patreon pod at some point talk about rugby branding. We must.
Oh no!
Yeah.
How do we miss out on this?
We do not have time to get into this.
Do we have a spare hour? Do we have a spare hour?
Maybe this is a Patreon pod just for you two.
Can you condense?
No,
as a little teaser of what's to come, JB. Can you condense your thoughts into a 30-second soundbite?
No, because it's not scalable on the internet. I wish I could, but I can't.
Very good. Very good.
On that bombshell, I think we should say, let the boys end.
Let the boys end.
What do Devontae Adams, George Kittle, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, and Amon-Ra St. Brown all have in common? Well, besides being some of the most reliable hands in the game of football, they're also the stars of the new Netflix series Receiver. From the same team that brought you the show Quarterback, Receiver takes you deep inside the huddles, locker rooms, and personal lives of 5 of the best pass catchers and playmakers in the NFL. Catch Receiver now playing only on Netflix.
Summer is always full of fun, and this summer FanDuel has something for every baseball fan every day to make it even funner. Is that a word? It is now. All customers get a boost or a bonus every day all summer long, only on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. 21 plus and present in Virginia. Opt-in required. Wager requirements apply. Bonuses awarded as non-withdrawable bonus bets or profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including bonus expiration. See terms and conditions at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Having choices is good, and checking accounts are no exception. At Sandy Spring Bank, we have a variety of checking options and make it easy to choose based on your needs. Mobile deposits and payments, interest checking, or checking with no fees or minimums. Best of all, We'll help you select the account that suits your life. What's your next financial destination? Sandy Spring Bank. Visit sandyspringbank.com/checking. Member FDIC.